Hello, and welcome to the third of our 4 workshops. Today's workshop is on theme, but don't let that put you off. We're not talking about the themes of Hamlet or any other Shakespearean works. What I want to do is help you develop an understanding of theme with a view to how it applies to your writing, not just analysing the works of others, but ultimately figuring out what theme means to you and your writing. So we'll be looking at the following 4 areas. Firstly, what is theme? And secondly, a very important question, why would I care about theme? Next, what should my themes be? And finally, how do I include theme in my story? So let's start at the beginning. What is theme? Theme is what your story is about. Not what happens, that's your plot. Amy discovers her classmate is missing, goes and searches for them, finds them, happy ending, that's the plot. Theme is what question is answered in your story. What question do you pose to the reader? What do we learn? What does our story make us think about? When all is said and done, when the characters fall in love, when the villain is defeated, when the world is saved, when Amy finds her missing friend, when we turn the final page of the story, what are we left with? Is it that perseverance will always succeed? True love shines through? That war is always evil, that we should value our friends, that we should look beyond the surface of other people? Unlike the other topics we covered, theme is something of a nebulous concept. Character, conflict, these are things we can point to and say, Amy, that's our character. Her want is to find her missing friend. The conflict is the guards getting in her way, the fact that she has no information, her parents interfering. Those are her obstacles, the conflict. The plot is what Amy does to try and find this person. So an example of the plot would be she goes and she investigates, and the deeper she digs, the more she asks her classmates. She discovers that, in fact, this person that went missing was being bullied quite badly. So this leads her to look into their life a little bit, and she discovers that they haven't gone missing, they have in fact run away. So Amy does some digging, finds them, befriends them, convinces them to come back to school, that things can be better, that Amy will look out for them, that now they have a friend. So that's our plot. The theme, of course, is a little harder to pin down. It's the central idea of your story. But in this example, Amy learns that she has not been paying attention. She's not a bully. She would never bully anyone. But she has been turning a blind eye to what's been happening in her class. She never saw the worst of it, but she did know what was going on. She can't deny that. Just figured it was not that bad. But looking back, she realizes this was just her trying to convince herself it was not bad, so she could be okay with not getting involved, sort of turning a blind eye. And now, at the end of our story, she realizes how wrong she was. There's a powerful message in that story. Okay, let's go to an exercise, okay? An important part of figuring out theme is doing some work for yourself and kind of thinking about it yourself, not just listening to me draw on about it. So our first exercise is to write down your 3 favorite stories. Anything at all will do. Books, TV series, film, video games, whatever. Just write down 3 stories that you love, okay? Now, write down what you think the theme or themes of these stories are, okay? That's all, not too much, just to get you thinking about these themes, okay? So pause the video, take 5 minutes, and write down what you think the themes are. Don't worry if you're not sure, if you're not 100%, just write down some ideas just to begin with, okay? So I hope that and the first exercise leaves you with a slightly better understanding of theme. But if you don't quite get it yet, don't worry. We're going to talk about it a bit more. We're going to do some more exercises, and we're going to approach this from a few different angles. So bear with me, and I'm sure that by the end of the workshop, you'll really get what theme is and why it's important to your story. So let's move on to the second part of our workshop. Why do I care about theme? So you want to write a story, you have a fun idea for it, maybe you've got your character figured out, great. So why bother with a theme? Why does your story need a theme? The thing is, theme is not something we just add to a story. It's not a recent addition thought up by English teachers to make your lives more difficult. Themes are foundational to story. Stories were originally told around campfires, an unwritten tradition of passing down tales from one generation to the next to pass down knowledge and teachings when there was no such thing as kind of the written word in schools, to teach the next generation lessons, to instill knowledge in them, how to live their lives, to avoid the mistakes of their forebears. This is, in fact, how stories came to be. Stories and theme are inextricably linked. In a way, stories were designed to communicate lessons, morals, ideas to live by. And the theme in a story can be powerful, really powerful. An example, if you believe that war is bad and you start telling everyone who will listen, war is bad, it's terrible, it's always wrong. Here are the facts, the figures, the history lessons. That's great. You, in fact, have a valid point. People won't necessarily want to listen to you. Facts and statistics can be a bit boring. I know I didn't always enjoy school, rarely did. But if you tell me a story, maybe your own story, maybe someone else's, maybe real, maybe fiction, about how someone's life was affected by war. Maybe they were displaced, put in danger, lost some family, had to leave their country. If you put me in their shoes, make me see these things, live these things, feel these things, then I will be more than just interested. I will want to know how the story ends. I will want to follow that character. I'll be riveted. But also, maybe without realizing it, maybe my opinion of war will change, will shift a little bit from seeing it through the eyes of someone else. Maybe I'll really see how it affects a person, another human being. And that, for me, has more power than just numbers and statistics. And maybe I'll become more opposed to war. That's a simplistic example, I know, but I hope it helps you get the point. No one wants to be lectured, but we all love stories. Another reason that you should care about theme is themes that are about often personal, internal things. The kinds of things that we spend our time thinking about. Why are we here? What should I do with my life? What is the most important to me? Who is most important to me? Our beliefs in God, religion, gender roles, sexuality, and we can externalize these by writing stories. Sometimes we aren't comfortable talking about them. We mightn't even know how to talk about them. We can figure these things out, externalize these things by writing stories. We can communicate our own personal views, beliefs, and ideas. And we can do so in a powerful and unique way. Nobody can tell the exact same story that you could tell. Nobody. So if you want to externalize a belief, a viewpoint, give it to your main character. Then test that. Put them up against something that maybe makes them doubt that belief. You can show people why you think that belief matters by having them overcome it. Or maybe they will learn about this belief and this new knowledge will help them overcome an obstacle. Or put them up against someone with an opposing viewpoint. And then your story is almost a conversation between two opposing viewpoints. And maybe you answer, maybe you have a final answer to this conversation. Maybe you don't have the answer and you're thinking out loud. Finally, if you want to be a writer, some part of you wants to tell stories. Why do you want to tell stories? Think about this. What do you want to say to people? Okay, another exercise. This is something of a funny one, but bear with me, okay? Take 3 stories, but stories that you have studied in school, okay? Not necessarily this year, but any 3 stories that you remember that you have studied in school. Plays, short stories, novels, anything on the curriculum. And then write down what you think the theme or what you were told the theme of these stories were. Okay, and then write a paragraph or 2 and tell me, are these themes of interest to you? Could you relate to them? Were you excited or interested by them? And was this interest or lack of interest, did it affect your interest of the story itself? Okay, for good or for bad. And again, no wrong answers here. This isn't kind of a classroom situation. You can totally rubbish these texts if you want to, say you're bored by them, whatever. I just want to know, I just want to get an honest answer of what they meant, if anything, to you. Okay? I know for my own part, I didn't get on super well at school. Some of the texts we studied, just I had no interest in, but some of them really grabbed me. Some of them I have reread many times since school. Okay, so I just want you to think about this a little bit again, just to get you thinking about theme on your own terms, okay? So take 5 minutes and we'll come back. Okay, so maybe you're on board now, but maybe theme still doesn't sound like something that will make you a better writer that you think has a place in your writing. So let's take a step back and look at what themes you can include in your own work. This is, I hope, where the idea of theme will really start to resonate. And this is definitely the most important thing we're going to discuss today. Maybe even the most important thing we're going to discuss in all 4 of these workshops. And asking what themes you should include in your work, what I am actually asking is, what do you want to write about? What are you passionate about? What interests you so much that you have to write about it? That maybe there's something that when you meet up with your friends and you get talking, there's something you just can't shut up about. You know, when you start talking, your friends roll their eyes and go, oh God, they're never going to shut up now that they've started talking about this. Okay, what is that? Maybe what are you interested in exploring? Maybe what do you not quite understand and you want to figure out? Writing can be a great way of exploring new ideas, of thinking things through. It certainly always has been for me. A great starting point for this is by simply looking at the world around you. Are there ways in which you were brought up that you don't agree with? Are there parts of your formal education that you think were a waste of time? Are there things that you absolutely think should be taught in school? Things that shouldn't be taught in school? Do politics, the environment, climate change, treatment of minorities, immigrants, treatment of gender in society, do any of these things make you really angry? Maybe you want to change things, to tell people how you feel. Maybe you just want to talk about these things. You can write about any of these things. You could go ahead and just write an article, a fact piece, write a memoir piece just about yourself. Or you could wrap it up in fiction. Tell a story to illustrate the point you want to make or something you want to look at. You could use science fiction. Science fiction is a fantastic way of discussing themes because you can create a whole world. You can kind of take the idea, the theme that you want to talk about, exaggerate it, multiply it until it takes over the whole world. Okay, another planet, or in our far future where the storms are so bad because climate change has just kind of run rampant and it's an apocalyptic world. Another planet where one alien species hunts down another, kind of trying to make them extinct. Books like The Handmaid's Tale are an extraordinary examples of this, of how you can do this in science fiction. But whatever genre you choose, starting with yourself, with what concerns you, is always a great place to start. If you're honest and passionate about something, that will come across in your writing. For my own part, when I came up with obstacles for Jenny, who you might remember from our last workshop, she found her sister Sandra was kind of dabbling in drugs, falling in with the wrong crowd. So when I came up with the story idea and the obstacles that Jenny would face, I really kind of focused on things that I was interested in. Can't help it. The idea that Jenny would have trouble not being honest with her parents, that for some reason being honest was maybe not the right solution. Is honesty always the right course, even if it could cause harm? I don't know. I like to think that it is, but the world is messy and complicated, and I just don't have the answer to that. But it really interests me. The other thing about that is, one way of thinking about kind of the world and the society is surely the right thing to do is just follow the law and, everything would be fine. So if Jenny had followed the law, called the guards on her sister, she's dealing drugs, that's illegal. Call the guards on her sister, and then Jenny goes through, and then Jenny's sister maybe goes to court, maybe goes through the prison system. Would that actually have helped her sister at all? Would it have made things far, far worse in so many ways? If so, why is that the case? Why is that what we believe as society is the right thing to do? So these are some things that I think about that interest me, that really sometimes come across in my writing, okay? And maybe you strongly disagree with them, fantastic. That's where your own writing should come from then. But maybe that kind of writing doesn't suit you. It's not who you are, it's not what you want to talk about. This is important, okay? Don't lose yourself. Don't ever write what you think others will want to read, If you write what you care about, your writing will be better. Don't try and make yourself sound clever or kind of talk about topics of the day. You have to be interested in what you want, in what you're writing about, even if that's silly, okay? Maybe your theme is have more fun. Maybe your theme is enjoy life. Don't worry about the future, worry about having fun, always go for it. Ask someone out, take that holiday, jump in that lake. Your theme can be anything. There's a story that I really, really love. There's a musician, Warren Zevon, who was coming to the end of his life. He had only a short time to live, and he made an appearance on the David Letterman show. He was David Letterman's favorite musician, and he appeared on the show a lot. So he came on, played some songs, and they did an interview. He actually died a couple of weeks after this interview. So one thing that David Letterman asked him was, what advice could you give people? You've lived a long, full life, and now you're kind of coming, you're coming to the end of it. What could you take from your life? What could you tell people, to give them advice in their lives? And his advice was, enjoy every sandwich. And I love that, that's kind of a full lifetime's worth of experience, and his theme was, enjoy every sandwich. Whatever you do, be damn sure that you enjoy your life. And that is a fantastic theme. I love that so much. And it can be even sillier than that. If your sense of humor is really important to you, if you want to point out maybe how silly the world is, maybe if you think the world is just so caught up in its seriousness that people need to laugh more, go ahead and you write about that, okay? And writing with honesty can be difficult. Bearing your soul on the page, whether in a serious or in a funny way, it's maybe the biggest challenge in writing. But if you can overcome that, if you can put even a little bit of your own honesty on the page, it will show in your work. Your work will shine because of it. The important thing again is that your themes are your own. So, an exercise, and this one should be easy, okay? What I want you to do is to stop thinking about theme as a technical, learn at school kind of a thing, and think about it in personal terms, okay? Write down 10 things that you are passionate about, that you think about a lot, that you talk about a lot, that you wonder about a lot, okay? Forget about kind of thinking in technical terms of theme. 10 things that interest you. I don't care if it's soccer, cricket, laughter, love, Star Wars, you know, write down the things that you're passionate about that come from you, okay? 10 things, so take 5 minutes to do that and come back to me. For the final part of our workshop, we're going to be looking at how do I include theme in my story. So sometimes you start with a theme, sometimes you figure it out as you go along. That's totally fine. Sometimes by the end of your story, you can look back and read it and think this is what the theme of the story can or should be. I'm going to talk about some different approaches here, but honestly, you will really need to figure this one out for yourself, and that's fine. Again, it comes down to actually writing. Listening to me is one thing, but you need to be writing stories and really figuring out for yourself what works for you, what you want to write about, how you will put themes into your story. Okay? So, you don't want to preach, you don't want to come across as you're lecturing to your readers, so how do you put themes into your story? We talked about how characters are important already, and how a reader can relate to a character, see themselves in that character, follow that character as they attempt to overcome obstacles and get what they want. An obstacle, by definition, is something in the character's way. It wouldn't be in the character's way if they could easily overcome it, if they could get over it straight away or with ease. So they have to learn something, figure something out to overcome that obstacle. That is the foundation of story, about overcoming obstacles, and we do that by growing and by learning. So a big way of weaving theme into your story is through character and the conflicts that they face. What we've already talked about, in fact. When characters overcome obstacles, it is because they have learned something. Improved, changed, figured something out. So for your theme, ask yourself, what did they learn? How did they improve or change? How did they overcome these obstacles? What did they have to rethink in their lives? And of course, if they failed to overcome an obstacle, which is totally fine in your stories as well, why is that? What are they missing? What are they not seeing? What is holding them back in their own lives? Is there an antagonist with an opposing view? Is your story a conversation between these two views? So when you're thinking about your themes, focus on this. It's a really, really great start to how to include themes in your story. There are other ways, of course. You can have one character just teach another about a theme, and that might come across as a bit of an obvious kind of lesson giving, but you can be subtle about it. Character can learn something by watching another character, by figuring something out just by looking at the people or the world around them. They believe one thing, but an overall experience, not just an obstacle, gives them a new worldview, a better understanding. The world they're living in any sense, can be part of the theme and be part of what they learn. In fact, that the world can be the theme, you know, whether that's and by world, that can be family, their school, the laws of the land, their planet. All of these things can help illuminate a particular theme. As can your own writing. How you describe things, the very words that you choose. And that is something we'll be looking at in our final workshop on description. That was very brief. The main way to put theme into your story will be characters, the obstacles they face, and what will help them learn and figure out. Okay, so let's keep focused on that as we go into our final exercise. So our final exercise is to look for themes in the stories that you enjoy. Okay, so we're going right back to the very start of the workshop when you listed 3 stories that you really loved, and you wrote down what you thought the theme or themes of these stories were. Okay, now I want you to write a paragraph or 2 on each of these stories and their themes, and figure out how these stories got their themes across. Were they in what the characters said and what the characters did, in obstacles that they overcame, in villains that they came across, in the world around them. Maybe how that world started out, maybe how that world changed, okay? So take 5 minutes on that and come back to me then. Okay, having finished that exercise, the workshop is done for today. So let's move on to our assignment. So the assignment for this workshop is, as ever, in 3 parts. The first part is to think of a theme, by which I mean something you want to write about. Again, this can be anything. try picking one of the 10 themes you listed earlier. Then, figure out how you would put this into a story, how you could get this across to a reader. It doesn't have to be huge and blunt. Subtle is a really good way of doing it. If you're stuck, just come up with a character and figure out a way for the character to learn about this theme to better understand it. Maybe they start the story without knowing or understanding something, and something they come up against in their lives, however subtle that may be, forces them to rethink something in their lives. Finally, I actually want you to write this story. Again, short story, less than 1,000 words. And again, it can be any kind of a story that you want to tell, okay? As long as you somehow weave your theme into that story. So again, I'm going to pop up the character sheet here. Again, it's a great way of starting out a story is by figuring out a character, especially if you're stuck and you don't know where to begin. Write out your character and think about the 10 themes you listed and which of those themes might somehow interact or intersect with your character. Okay, that's it for today. I'll see you again next time for our fourth and final workshop, in which we will be talking about description, the actual act of writing, and how to improve your own writing. In the meantime, I do hope you tackle the assignment, and I hope you enjoy your writing. Thanks for watching.